Good morning, I'm Taylor Wilson, and today is Thursday, August 7th, 2025. This is USA Today's The Excerpt. Today, new tariffs take effect, plus what will be the legacy of Trump's ballroom, and what climate change is doing to archaeological treasures. Higher tariff rates of 10 to 50% on dozens of U.S. trading partners kick in today. That comes after President Donald Trump yesterday signed an executive order imposing an additional 25% tariff on imports from India as a penalty for the country importing oil from Russia. The additional levy doubles India's U.S. tariff rate to 50%. It marked the first time Trump has deployed so-called secondary tariffs on Russian trading partners that he threatened if Russian President Vladimir Putin did not agree to a ceasefire to end his country's war in Ukraine. The additional 25% Indian tariff goes into effect in 21 days under the order. Trump is expected to meet Putin in person as early as next week, according to multiple reports. Meanwhile, tech giant Apple announced $100 billion in new U.S. investment, bringing its total investment to $600 billion in the latest move by the company to boost domestic production to protect its popular iPhones from Trump's steep tariffs. A U.S. Army sergeant is in custody after allegedly opening fire at the Fort Stewart military base in Georgia yesterday, injuring 5. Military officials said the suspect was subdued by fellow soldiers and taken into custody. The shooting occurred shortly before 11 a.m. local time at the suspect's workplace, the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team, according to officials. The incident prompted the base to be briefly placed under lockdown, and they said the suspect used a personal handgun, not a military firearm. All 5 people shot were in stable condition and expected to recover. Yesterday's shooting is the second in recent years to occur in the 2nd Armored Brigade Combat Team's workspace. In December 2022, a fellow soldier shot and killed Sergeant Nathan Hillman at the unit's building complex. And other military bases have also experienced shootings in recent years, including in 2019, when a foreign flight training officer from Saudi Arabia killed 3 Navy sailors and wounded 8 more in a shooting at Naval Air Station Pensacola in Florida. Executive orders come and go, but a 90,000 square foot ballroom, that's here to stay. I spoke with USA Today Washington Bureau Chief Susan Page for a closer look at the president's plans for a new White House ballroom. Susan, thanks for hopping on.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
So just starting here, let's get into the ballroom plans themselves. What will this actually look like? What do we know as of now?
It's going to be huge. It is an enormous structure. The White House says it will have 90,000 square feet. That is 60% bigger than the White House itself. It's 3 times bigger than the West Wing. So it is going to be big. Construction is supposed to start in September. And Trump promises that it will be finished in time for him to hold the opening celebrations there.
Okay, and Susan, why does he argue this is necessary? What does he want to get out of this?
Well, in this new ballroom, when they have a state dinner or another formal dinner, they'll be able to include 650 people. At the moment, the most people you can invite to come indoors is 200 people in the East Room. So what White Houses have done in the last several administrations is put these big tents up on the South Lawn and hold state dinners there so more people can be invited. That is a risky proposition because sometimes it rains. There was a huge storm when Gerald Ford was having a state dinner on the South Lawn for Queen Elizabeth, nearly a catastrophe. So this is, in Trump's view, a way to have a fancy place to entertain people that's bigger than what they have now. And you know what it looks like? It looks like the Donald J. Trump Ballroom at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, can you just refresh us, Susan, on some of the other stuff Trump has done to the White House when it comes to changes or renovations?
You know, I looked at the history of this, and other presidents have done stuff. You know, Thomas Jefferson put in the colonnade, and Teddy Roosevelt put in the West Wing. But no president has done more projects of such great scale since the White House was opened in 1800 than Donald Trump. And the ballroom is the best example, but he's also just finished paving the Rose Garden. Instead of grass and flowers, now it has white tile. Now, he says that's useful because it means you don't have to worry about sinking into the mud. If you have a news conference out there or a reception, it's a big difference. And on both the north and south lawns, there are now these huge flagpoles with supersized American flags flying from them. They are taller than the White House itself.
Whoa. Well, as for the ballroom move itself, Susan, how is that landing with the American public?
Well, it hasn't caused a huge controversy, I don't think. We'll see what people think about it once it's opened. There have been some critics. There have been some critics about kind of the general effort that he's made to change the White House. And that is actually pretty traditional when there are any sorts of changes. Even when Truman added the Truman balcony in 1948 on the second floor, that was a little controversial. There are two ways, so Trump has avoided controversy. One is he's not asking for government money to build it. He says the $200 million cost will come from Patriot donors and himself. And he also has pretty much finessed the traditional process of getting historical advocacy groups to really weigh in on things before he moves ahead.
I guess the ball's rolling here. Is there any chance this could be reversed?
There are things about Trump's presidency that could be reversed. Executive orders, a new president could sign a new executive order. A law that's been passed could be repealed. But it is hard to imagine that a future president is going to be able to undo a 90,000 square foot ballroom that has been built beside the White House.
Well, you mentioned the Truman balcony as it's known. Do you foresee this, Susan, as being, I guess, referred to as the Trump ballroom in the years to come?
I don't know how we could call it anything else. There'll be future presidents who think that's a great thing and future presidents who don't. But this is Trump's ballroom.
All right. Susan Page is USA Today's Washington Bureau Chief. Thank you, Susan.
Hey, thank you.
Climate change is revealing and destroying archaeological treasures. I spoke with USA Today breaking news reporter Carissa Waddick to learn more. Carissa, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Chris, let's just start by talking about the Earl of Chatham, this ship discovered in Scotland. How did folks find this?
The ship was discovered in February 2024 after a pretty violent winter storm swept away a bunch of sand on a small island off the northern coast of Scotland. And so passersby were walking on the beach and they saw what looked like this giant wooden beam kind of sticking out of the sand dunes. From there, researchers took the piece and after a year of investigating, trying to figure out its origins, they found out that it was the Earl of Chatham, which was this 18th century whaling ship that also played a role for the British Navy in the American Revolution.
Wow. And just more broadly, Carissa, how are we seeing coastal erosion like this lead to more shipwrecks being revealed?
The global sea level has risen nearly 4 inches since 1992, according to NASA. And those higher sea levels that we're seeing also mean stronger storm surges. And those storm surges, they're churning the sand on the beaches and they're stripping away rocks and things that have hidden these shipwrecks for centuries, essentially. That's what James Delgado, a maritime archaeologist I spoke with, said. And so as we are seeing more of these storms, we're also seeing more of the shipwrecks that are lying beneath the beaches.
And as the climate warms, I guess melting glaciers are also revealing shipwrecks and other artifacts as well, correct?
Yeah, I talked to folks in Norway who found more than 3,000 objects from the melting glaciers there since 2006, and they found some pretty remarkable stuff. A child's toy from 600 AD, birch bark containers with wax candles, and some of the stuff dates back all the way to 6,000 years ago.
What problems, Carissa, is the changing climate also bringing for these artifacts and sites, even as it does allow for, as we've outlined, more discoveries to be made?
The storms are also destroying some artifacts. These strong storm surges are ripping away some of the wood, and this can be seen in a few different sites pretty clearly. There's a site off the coast of England that's a submerged prehistoric settlement, and that has seen 4 meters of erosion in the last 10 years. Researchers are racing against time there to rescue perfectly kept artifacts from the Stone Age. We're talking flint tools and even hazelnuts that somehow have maintained despite all of this time. In other places like the Baltic Sea, we're seeing animals that eat wood migrating up there and destroying ships that have otherwise stayed intact in the cold and kind of salty water.
All right, I found this fascinating. Folks can go check out the link in today's show notes if they want to get a full version of this story. Carissa Waddick covers breaking news for USA Today. Thanks, Carissa.
Thanks so much.
Paleontology researchers in Europe have identified a new species of ancient marine reptile, often referred to as a Jurassic sea monster or sea dragon, that existed nearly 183 million years ago. The newly classified species of plesiosaur likely had the distinction of having the longest neck of other plesiosaurs during the early Jurassic period, according to Sven Sachs, the study's lead author. The bones of the reptile, not a dinosaur, were found in 1978 by Gottil Fischer, owner of a quarry and small museum in Germany. Thanks for listening to The Excerpt. You can get the podcast wherever you get your audio, and if you're on a smart speaker, just ask for The Excerpt. As always, you can email us at podcasts@usatoday.com. I'm Taylor Wilson, and I'll be back tomorrow with more of The Excerpt from USA Today.